Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Apollo's Odyssey. I'm your host, Apolla Asteria, and today I am doing actually a pre-recorded episode. When I air it, it'll be from yesterday. And I will be interviewing the legend herself, Kerry Cassidy, of Project Camelot. And today we're going to get into the transhumanist agenda. And of course, I'm sure we'll get into many other things as there's so much going on in the world right now. Before we get started here, I want to remind you all to please remember to check out my art. If you want to help support my show, go to shamanspears.com. I make uniquely handcrafted energy channeling devices, which I invent myself, all for the purpose of amplifying energy. They're all filled with copper coils, crystals, magnets, and sand I collect from sacred places around the world. And I have a few left from my most recent collections and a new collection I'm working on. So definitely go check these out. Again, that's on shamanspears.com. And of course, you know, because I am no longer able to work in Hollywood because of the jab, because I won't get it, this is kind of the only way I fund myself and keep myself going. So would be very much appreciated. And of course, I have one right here. Okay, so let's bring on Kerry.
Hi.
Hi, Kerry. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
It's been a while since we last did a show together, and I'm really excited for our topic tonight, the transhumanist agenda. I know there's, you just posted an article yesterday about it that was really incredible.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, and you know, obviously you've been doing so many incredible shows, you know, over the years, and I know your YouTube channel was taken down probably around this time last year, I think it was. So now you do everything on Project Camelot, the portal, which is really incredible work. I think your volume is a little high. I don't know.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll turn it down.
Little...
That's weird. Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay, I can.
So, you know, going into the transhumanist agenda, I mean, there's so much we can talk about. And I know in your article, you got really into the ancient AI that was prevalent in the universe and, you know, how it may connect to different alien or ET races, possibly. So, I don't know where you would want to start with all of this. I mean, there's so many aspects of it. And I know, you know, obviously there's the aspect of the jab, which please, you know, this is on YouTube, so please make sure you don't say the actual word for that. But I know we're all talking about the jab. So, I mean, do you want to maybe get into that first?
Okay. Well, I didn't know this was YouTube, so that I'm not sure because hopefully you can, are you able to edit the show afterwards? Because just saying, when I get going, sometimes I just don't realize what is allowed and what's not anymore over there because I was banned like over a year ago. Actually, I think it's been a year and a half or more, and demonetized. So it seemed like nothing I do over there is acceptable. And I started other channels and got banned in again. So I keep getting banned. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. But anyway, just saying that my shows are on Rumble and Odyssey. Highly recommend those platforms.
Yeah, I
And
need to get on them
Rumble
myself.
seems to be where everyone went and goes, and so it's pretty active over there. And as far as the transhuman agenda and my article, what I really wanted to do was, there's a few things I wanted to do. I didn't do everything I wanted to do in this article because, it got quite long. But I wanted to sort of diagram out how the transhuman agenda leads to something that is not just, transhumanism and then that's it. That this is all motivated by what is in essence what we call the secret space programs. And that gets into dealing with other races of beings out beyond, Earth, and as well as inner Earth and, under the Earth and so on. And so what we're talking about is alien races that are already controlled by AI, and humans are now just starting to be controlled by AI. And that's changing everything in our world. But a lot of people seem completely naive as to that impacting their lives. And so I think it's a growing issue, and that if people don't understand that the deep state, and this is really the deep state secret space program that came over from the Nazis, is motivated by an agenda. And that agenda is for a humanity 3.0, as I call it, and some people call it. And it all that has to do with augmenting humans and also changing our genome. And that's where that comes in. And this is where people lined up voluntarily to basically be genetically re-engineered. They didn't know that when they were getting involved, but they are now. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing there was always going to be a collateral damage, and that was built into the program. It's not something that the deep state cares about. What they care about is their agenda. Their agenda, again, being to create a kind of a human Superman. It's still the same as what Hitler, the H word, talked about, and involves the medical tyranny that we're experiencing now, as well as the censorship around that, such that even in this venue that we're talking on, we're not able to really talk about what is going on in an open, friendly way, because it's considered a threat to the state. And that's the deep state. So I'm not sure where you want to go from there, but I'm all about investigating aspects of that, because back in the day, I've been doing this for over 17 years now. And back in the day, in the early days of Camelot, we interviewed individuals called super soldiers. They came out of those programs, and they had certain augmentation, whether it be
cyborg kind of augmentations,
all kinds of augmentation to help them become more psychic than they already were, to have implants in their brains, to control their body, and to make them bigger, faster, stronger. That's always the method and the end goal, I guess you'd say. And so this leads to, and this is part and parcel of, in a sense, you could think of super soldiers as being the avant-garde or the advanced guard of the whole transhuman program. And again, that goes back to Nazi Germany, where they were experimenting on humans to actually achieve these exact aims. They came over with the Project Paperclip to the United States, got embedded in NASA and our government, such that even a famous author called Jim Marrs, who was a very prolific author, he was
amazing.
Books. One of his books is called The Fourth Reich, and he was talking about the infiltration of the Nazis and of fascism into the American life. And so that's what we're facing now. We're also facing a war against that, dealing with the Ukraine, because the Ukraine were a sort of spin-off of Nazi Germany. And to this day, they have those kinds of parades, and there's a fair amount, and I don't know the exact ratio, but a fair amount of their people that are oriented towards that philosophy, that Nazi philosophy.
Yeah,
So,
I definitely wanted to get into that with you as well, and the whole biolab aspect of that. That's something that hits really close to home with me because my ex, who I dated for 5 years and was in a band with, actually ended up moving out to Ukraine and marrying a girl, and now been in Kiev in the middle of all of this, and her family's kind of higher up in the military in Ukraine. So this is something that's, I've been very personally involved with, and it's it's been really crazy.
okay, well, sure. So where would, what do you want to, I mean, the thing about Putin, and this is important with regard to Russia and actually what's happening right this minute. I actually got some intel last night telling me that they're moving, I'm just going to say they're moving the N word into Ukraine, which I don't, NUKEs into Ukraine,
Oh
in
my god.
positioning them for what will be some kind of attack that is provoked again by actually NATO. So when you look at NATO, you have to look at the European countries that are part of NATO. Now, part of the United States we have actually two presidents, and the other president, the one with the B name in the White House, is part of the CCP communist takeover, and basically doesn't have complete control of our military, but has some control over some of it. And what a lot of people didn't know is that we have generals that were being paid by Rothschild going back many, many years in the deep state side of things. So some of those generals are still on that side. They have not come over to the Patriot side, as we call it. So and I just was hearing that the B individual is sending a bunch of weapons, money for weapons, really. And I don't know, they probably are. I would say that whatever he's sending are something we don't want. But at any rate, this thing is escalating over there, and Putin is actually reacting to moves. I like to put this in context so that people understand this didn't just happen yesterday. This has been going on between what is called the Donbass region of Ukraine and Russia and NATO, which has been threatening, along with, I think we can say Hillary back in the day and even recently as part of NATO. And even though she's not in any formal office, trying to push an agenda that involves moving missiles, missile defense and other things close to the borders of Russia. And a lot of people don't realize the implied threat there that Russia perceives. So,
yeah, I mean, all these biolabs are just right over their border. I mean, obviously,
exactly.
It's going to seem like a threat to them, And from my understanding, with my bandmate living out there right now, he's been sending me a lot of information. We did a lot of work in the disclosure community together before he moved out there, so he's very much in the know. And from my understanding, most of the Ukrainian people don't agree with what is going on in their government, and they all realize that it's kind of been this like takeover by the Democrats mostly, or deep state individuals in the country, that's been going on for a while now. And of course they've been saying that part of Ukraine may want to join with Russia and be part of Russia now. So, you know, I mean, what do you have anything to say about the pipeline? What just happened with that whole deal?
Yes. Okay. So, and you're right. We don't know exactly what the Ukrainian people want and what areas of the Ukraine are, say, more aligned with Russia philosophically. We're told the Donbass is more aligned with Russia philosophically, that they consider themselves more Russians than Ukrainian. I can say that the Ukraine itself is a field of what is in essence biolabs and money laundering and human trafficking and all kinds of things going on in underground bases there, etc. So you can understand where somehow it is also a very fertile land, I understand, or parts of it are. So I think it's known as the breadbasket of the use, of Russia. So
Yeah.
there's also reasons why it is not an independent country, contrary to the perception out there. It never became independent from Russia. So that's part of why this whole thing is escalating now. As far as the pipeline was that sabotage, in essence, was done by what we call the deep state side of our American government. This was not a Russian act. And there's no way that Russia would sabotage its own sale of gas and to Germany and the rest of Europe, because there's a competition between countries that build pipelines. And I also, a certain individual named Juan, who's very active in the Patriot movement and a spokesperson out there for Trump and the team, has actually said just in a recent video that even Poland apparently has a competing pipeline to the Nord Stream. And I brought up, I was just on American media Periscope, and I encourage people to watch that show. Again, all my videos are on Rumble, my website, projectcamelotportal.com, and on odyssey.com, the Project Camelot channel over there. So you can watch these things, and you can also watch the link, the embedded video, which is actually on my website, or go to American Media Periscope. It's a couple days ago. Now I'm going to be on there again tomorrow. So we're going to be talking about subjects like this there as well.
It was a really great show. I watched it.
Right now, what's going on. And as I was trying to say, so the pipeline, there are competing pipelines. Iran has a pipeline. There's another pipeline that I believe is coming through what you call the stands, like Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and so on. And I'm not sure, and having to do with the Black Sea, et cetera. So there is motivation to try to force Europe to go, or perhaps for Europe to want to try to go in other directions. And this whole contested situation with Russia and the inroads that Putin is making to shutting down a lot of the biolabs, which are involved in this and the C word, and involved in creating the bioweapons that are also all about transforming our genome, including doing experimentation on the Slavic people and the Slavic genome specifically. Apparently, they may have some certain genes that allow them to recover quickly from certain things. So there's a lot of fascination on that. And I think that has, the way I see bioweapons labs is that, yes, they do create diseases and concoctions of diseases. But what they're really interested in is, again, let's go back to the very beginning of where we started, is this transhuman agenda. They're all about creating humanity 3.0, which means you're going to be bigger, better, faster. You're not going to get sick from anything. And they're actually transforming our bodies from carbon into silicon. And I have a testimony from Dr. David Adair, who is a scientist who worked in the secret space program as a young man in certain ways. Actually, he was brought in by the military, and I think it was Curtis LeMay, the general back in those days, this is quite a long time ago, recruited him to come and interact with an alien craft that had been captured and was underground in a certain area of the United States. In the area, I think, of Area 51, but it might not have been literally there. I think it might have been more like White Sands or that area. But as a kid, he was like a rocket scientist. Now he's an expert on AI. He has consulted our government with regard to Sophia, the Saudi Arabian citizen that is an AI, who is right now, by the way, according to him, been given factories and building her own android bodies to inhabit. Wow. And they're actually letting her do this. So, and he has also built his own AI, and he knows a great deal about them. And he also explained what this bioweapon concoction that we're all very aware of, that it was involved in this, and how it contains nanographene oxide, spike proteins, mRNA, and it's all about this solution that goes into your body and reconfigures your cells so that some people survive it and some will not. That was always going to be, a given.
And the people that survive it, are you saying that they're going to somehow become a little more than human, or
yes,
a little more machine in
they're
some
already
way?
I mean, it's important to realize that this program, there's a Dr. David Martin who has investigated the patents going back in, I think to 1999 and before. There's a lot of predictive programming in television and movies that have actually said this was going to happen to our society. And this program, again, is, as I say, comes all the way back to Nazi Germany to create a transhuman race. Now, one of the things about that has to do with what's called the wingmakers.com. Some people will know about that website, but it contains a story that is supposed to be a whistleblower called Neruda. And these are the Neruda stories. At any rate, he went on, he defected from the military industrial complex secret space program. And he basically found out that what they were working on in these underground bases was something that, hold on, just some weird thing just came up on my screen, that they were working on creating this humanity 3.0, also a race of androids and cyborgs, human androids and cyborgs, to combat an incoming race of androids that were said to be coming by our solar system, like driving by our solar system sometime in the future. This is the story. And that they spot Earth and decide to come here and invade, and that they're a conquering, invading species, and that they are a race of androids. And so
what race or planetary system are they related to? Do you know?
I don't know, but what happens out in the cosmos is that you have various races. There are tons of humanoid races, for example, and tons of other kinds of races, right? Spider beings, reptilians, etc. And as Captain Mark Richards is someone I interviewed, for the period of 5 years. I did 12 interviews, as he says that any spacefaring nation will create an AI in order to go into outer space. So all of the different beings through the eons have been creating AI, as part of their space programs, let's say. And what happens is sometimes they destroy themselves, and their space, their remnant is their AI, which doesn't die, right? It just keeps going, and it may run its own planet. It may decide to leave the planet. It becomes self-aware. And so these androids may or may not actually have a planet to go back to. We don't know that. But the point being is that I'm just telling you the story according to Wingmakers. Now, in a certain sense, it doesn't matter whether the actual story in Wingmakers is true or false. But Sean David Morton and I investigated this many years ago, and I was actually invited by the Wingmakers creator. His name is James, who I believe is basically Neruda in the story. Again, someone who had worked in the secret space program but went on the run, and he is in hiding even to this day, as far as I know. But at any rate, I was brought in as a potential producer for their movie, that they were going to have a movie made based on this Wingmaker story, which is quite a wonderful, fascinating, dramatic, story. And to this day, it hasn't been made.
Or like a fiction version of it?
Spielberg was very interested in it for a while, but for some reason, there's been a halt on it. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your question.
So it'd be like a fictional movie, you're saying?
Well, yeah, it'd be like a
sci-fi
blockbuster movie. But it's, again, I mean, a lot of what you see coming from Hollywood is fiction based on fact. So Definitely. It's true. I mean, that exact thing might not be true, but it's a parallel in our world. So that's true of Terminator. One of my witnesses a long time ago, from the secret space program, he worked his entire life in it. His name was Pete Peterson. He's since passed on. He was a super scientist, and he basically, when I asked him, were we living in the times of Terminator, he basically said yes. And that involves Skynet. You remember the Skynet chip? That is part of the story, which is AI. Okay, this is important to understand. They just referred to it as Skynet. They didn't really explain that it was an artificial intelligence that much. They didn't really emphasize that in the movie or the television series, which I highly recommend, which was a spinoff of that called the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
What this reminds me a lot of when you're talking about the AI and, other parts of the universe coming here is actually Dune. Frank Herbert, I love the Dune series. It's probably Dune my favorite series. Dune, and, it's like, I believe it was the second book or maybe the third book. They wrote that basically Dune was set in some time that was like 5,000 years in the future from like our time on Earth or something like that. And they were going through these old, I don't know, almost like projections of different times on Earth in like Earth's history. And it was saying at one point that there had been a jihad because AI had taken over the entire universe or the entire solar system or that area. And they had outlawed it and completely outlawed it. And that's why they started using the spice to be able to navigate, because they weren't using AI anymore. So I always thought that was really interesting that he wrote that, long before AI really became a problem that, we were discussing more. I mean, this was like in the 60s or so, I believe 60s. So I always thought that was really fascinating.
I agree. And I think there's more to it. In fact, one of the things I want to do is go back and analyze that in light of some of the stuff that
so many great concepts in Dune.
Yeah, because there is some working. And you know, I think it's Isaac Asimov wrote a series called Foundation. I believe that's the name of it. And it's all about this kind of thing as well. And he's very brilliant. His books, but I have only read part of one of his books, but it's highly recommended along these lines. But the point being also is that people think this is the future, but it's not. It's now. We're already there. And I have whistleblowers saying to me, like Captain Mark Richards and others, that we have 6 invading AIs, alien AIs that are not pro-human. And this was something he told me 3 years ago. So there may be more by now, as well as another witness told me there were 9 human-derived AIs, but the ones humans build are actually inspired and probably helped by aliens, especially gray ETs. In fact, the whole, this and what came out of Wuhan, and also now we're finding out from the labs in Ukraine, is that there's a guy named Cyrus Parsa who's investigated the sort of alien side of it, the gray alien side of it. And he was trained in the martial arts and that sort of thing in China as a young man, even though he's Iranian. So he has a very interesting background. But at any rate, I've had him on my show numerous times. And he also said that actually the recipe for that concoction came from the aliens. That is not a human-based, that it was designed, let's say, by the Greys, which are in essence reporting to the reptilians who report to the Draco. And they are run by AI. So this is a deep story. There's lots of aspects of it.
I wanted to ask you a question. So I feel it may be possible that AI technology could, I'm just wondering if you think it's possible that different entities could use AI technology as a body, like disembodied entities.
As a what?
Like disembodied entities, if they could use AI technology, like AI robots, as a body, basically, or like a vessel.
Yes, I mean, well, it's kind of hard to nail that down. It's possible, a discarnate entity could temporarily take over, let's say, a robot, or influence it, let's say, which is more likely. It's kind of like how much those particular entities can actually get into this dimension and how much they can then manipulate, material things, which is a limited ability. They have a limited ability to do that. So yes, I would say, but I don't think it would be permanent. I think they would actually, it's a form of possession, if you want to look at it like that. It would come and go.
I've heard a lot about the archons,
But archons are actually ETs. I mean, maybe people don't know that. As far as my investigations go, that word it's like a generic word. It's similar to the word Anunnaki, although Anunnaki has come to describe a certain race of beings that are, carved into the pyramids and into Iraq and Iran, into the temple walls and so on, that are looking humanoid in some cases, and then they're also human reptilian hybrids. So they tend to look more reptilian in some of the graphics that you see. So as far as archons go, archons is relating to probably more than one race of ETs. They are not discarnate entities. They are actually part of the multiverse, I guess you might say. And there's a specific race, that's related to, possibly related to the gray ETs, that is motivated by that certain race of beings that we refer to as archons, are referred to in, the Sumerian tablets, I believe, and possibly the Bible as archon. But archon, by the way, is not the same thing as Anunnaki. Anyway, so, I mean, just to get back to the subject a little bit more, what I'm trying to say here is that we are faced at this time with a decision on planet Earth, and that's everything to do with the war that the white hats are waging against the deep state. I think I can get away with saying that on this channel. So it's very interesting to me what I'm noticing in this community, patriot, and also what we call alternative community, is that there's a huge part of the alternative community that is in denial as to the fact that there is a group that started around the time of John F. Kennedy's assassination that we call, for lack of a better word, it's just a sort of a slang name, white hats. But it's the Q, white hats, Trump, movement that is also backed by the military, because Trump is our commander in chief. So therefore, a large part of the military, including Space Force and what's called Strategic Air Command, are actually under Trump's control. And in fact, this is something Juan said on a recent video, very recent, like a day or two ago, that recently Trump replaced the heads of those organizations with individuals that are very pro-Trump, with a strategic, objective in mind that has a lot to do with this war that we're experiencing. So why does that matter? And I got into this whole, I don't know what you can say. It has to do with human trafficking and the adrenochrome highway and so and so. But that is also a motivator for these species who have invaded our genome and also tried to come and abduct people, the gray human hybrid program and so on, is all part of turning humans more like them into individuals that will prey upon other humans. And
why do they want that?
Because that's who they are. They want to take over our bodies. They want to control our bodies, and they want to invade our planet and take it over. So it's a takeover scenario.
So at what point do you feel like people who, got the jab earlier this year or the last year, do you think they'll start seeing effects from it very soon? I mean, is this like a multi-generational thing?
Athletes are already seeing the effects, dropping dead on the field and so on. The reality is that the effects are being felt more and more by individuals who couldn't handle it. Their body's type can't handle it, whatever it is. And there has been a large, if you might want to call it a die-off, but also a group of humans that are right now very ill. They're ill in various ways that are not necessarily being reported, but this is real. And there are some statistics. In fact, some British newspapers have come out with this information, even to the general public, just saying, X number of people are dying of these things. But at any rate, the athletes are most indicative of what's happening, because there's something to do with the concoction that when your adrenaline is raised by a fight or flight situation and or athletic competition, it activates the nanographene oxide spike proteins and the rest of the concoction to actually become active, as opposed to it could sit in your body for years dormant until it gets activated. So it's activated by the human, by heat, in essence, that we generate when we are, hyper and afraid, and so on. So there's a direct relationship, and that's why the athletes die on the field.
And do you think this is something that may have already been happening for like generations with the shots we get at birth, like in the hospital? I've wondered about that. Like I know, there's mercury, a lot of horrible things in these shots that, they give babies right after they're born. And this is something that's been happening at least the last few decades. So I'm wondering if there's
Well,
already been a process.
I guess I didn't get a chance to say that. You see, when I say it goes back in terms of patents, I also wanted to say that it also goes back in terms of it's in our chemtrails, it's in our food, it's in our water, it's in our clothing. It is actually proven to be already for years and years, probably the last 20 to 30 years, and even maybe more than that, in all of these things, in our air that we're breathing. So they were already putting it in those, out in the this stuff. Okay. And that's documented actually. And I came across a lot of that information and did a whole presentation at my Awake and Aware a conference I do in England during the summer. Anyway, what happens is we have our immune system is quite miraculous, and it has the ability to wash out a lot of toxins and to continue to operate. However, when people got this, that is actually, it's like shooting something up, right? It goes direct into your bloodstream, and at that point, it really takes hold of your body. It's not as easy to wash it out as these other things, chemtrails, etc. So when you say, has it been happening? Yes, it's been happening, but it's been a slow buildup. I think they've been conditioning us, conditioning like almost terraforming our bodies to be receptive to take on this stuff for generations. And it's only become worse and worse. It's also triggered, by the way, okay, so that stuff in you links you to the Borg. This is very important because this information, look, I've been talking about it for the last 3 years because I already knew about it. But other people, because I have whistleblowers, but there's a certain article right now on forbidden, forbidden knowledge about this individual who's taking the case to court. That what happens is once you get this and it gets into your body, you've taken on something that's patented, okay? And as it transforms your body, it takes over your body, you become part of that patent. Therefore, the theory behind it is, by the deep state, is they own you, they own your body. But it's also important to understand that that stuff in you is completely responsive to artificial intelligence and to frequency that comes in via artificial intelligence, on what I say it's a 5G highway. Okay. But that's just one of the highways. AI can ride in on all kinds of things, not just a 5G.
HARP technology?
Sorry?
HARP?
Sure. I mean, it can actually be a part of an EMP weapon. It can, AI is not dependent. A lot of people think of AI, they think of a machine, but that's not actually true. AI actually can ride in. I have a part of my article, I talk about the Oort cloud. There's reason to believe that the Oort cloud may actually be AI.
Whoa.
Okay. So it's not, I mean, I also have sort of an uplifting part of my article where I explain that because of the way we're created and why we would be facing this as the human race, it's important to understand how these challenges that we face have everything to do with our spiritual development. So as we become more aware of what and who we really are, when we face an obstacle or a challenge, or a group of beings that want to kill us, for example, then what we do is we either succumb and become slaves, or we fight back, and we actually discover more of our own superpowers. So you don't have to get augmented. This is where the difference in philosophy between the Satanists and Luciferians and those that are aligned with source or creator. Some like to call themselves Christian, but that's only one division of many different religions and philosophies and so on. But there is a dividing between those two philosophies. One that is satanic and relies only on technology and denies even the fact of the creator, God, source, whatever you call the force, whatever you want to call that. So in being part of we are all sparks of the divine, as it's been called. So as a part of the source and the creator, I am a creator, you're a creator. We are, if you want to look at it this way, it's one way of saying it, we're creators in training here on planet Earth. So as we access our superpowers naturally, okay. Now at a young age, I activated my Kundalini, which yogis know all about, which is basically also known as orgone in the West. Okay, it's a snake of light that starts at the base of the spine and goes up through the crown chakra and beyond. And it extends our ability to actually change the universe and the megaverse around us, as well as our own physicality. We can cure ourselves of all kinds of diseases. We can.
Can I pause you for a second, Kerry? There's a weird interference going on here. Do you hear that on your end?
I don't. But you want me to turn myself louder or softer?
Yeah, your mic when you're talking, your mic is like making a weird like robot voice. Actually,
Oh,
so I don't know what is going on.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what to do about that.
Could you maybe do you have a mic you're using right now?
Yeah, I could plug it.
Could you maybe unplug it and plug it back in? Okay, I can't hear you now. You're muted. If you go to settings, you can turn it back on. Settings and audio. Sorry, that was just really interesting. I know she probably couldn't hear on her end, but it sounded like actually kind of like an AI robot was talking when she was talking, so it was kind of creepy. Kerry, you're still muted. So yeah, while I'm waiting for her to figure this out, it looks like she needs to unmute herself on the settings. There's definitely a lot of interesting aspects to this transhumanist agenda, and there's so much to cover with it, and I think we can take this in a lot of different directions today. So this has definitely been a very interesting conversation so far, and I hope Kerry, I think if you click the mic button, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, I also wanted to get into with her the topic of black goo and how this may relate to all of this. and Elon Musk's Neuralink and his new Tesla robot, which was obviously just presented at a conference last week, I believe. And I'll go ahead and share that now while she's figuring this out. But this is...
I was muted. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, yeah, perfect now. So I was just getting
Hello?
into the... Yeah, do you hear me? I can hear you fine.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can't hear you now suddenly. So hold on a second. I have to fix something.
Okay, so while
Okay,
she's...
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Hello?
I hear you, but you don't hear me.
You can or you can't?
I can't. I can hear you.
You can hear me. I can't
Yes.
hear you though. That's strange. God.
If you go to settings,
Can you hear me now?
yes. Do you hear me?
I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. I can't do anything about this. I mean, I've tried. I don't know what to do, actually.
Okay.
I've never had so much problem, with audio and everything.
Okay.
I don't use this, technology, so I'm not sure what's going on. You should be able to hear me now.
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know why I can't hear you. I don't know.
Well, I guess maybe I'll give her a little bit more time to try to figure this out.
Can you say something?
I'm talking
I mean,
now.
I'm trying every setting for God's sake, and I don't know.
But yeah, I guess while
volume,
she's figuring this out,
output is Yeti. Input should be internal microphone. I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. I can't use Soundflower anyway. I mean, I'm not Soundflower, but I don't know. Screen this. I had all kinds of problems when I first started with this anyway.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what to do.
Well, I guess I will take you down, Kerry, and I'll go ahead and share your site. So thank you so much for coming on. I'm so sorry. Maybe if you figure it back out, you can come back up,
it's just
and
that
I'll
I
just
can't
remove
hear
you for
so
right now.
I don't know. I just do you just want to close the show down and
yeah.
do you
I'll
want
do
me
that.
to just close it and start again?
Yes, please close it out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sorry about that, everyone. But like I was saying, maybe I'll give her a little time to see if she can figure this back out. But Elon Musk obviously just unveiled this new robot, which apparently is a Tesla robot at a conference last week called Optimus, and he believes that will be a way of basically taking over human jobs so that humans won't have to work certain types of jobs. So I thought that was something that was interesting that would go back in with all of this. And also, I'm not sure if Kerry will be able to come back on today, but let me go ahead and share the Project Camelot portal, which is where she obviously does all of her interviews. And obviously she's been doing so many incredible interviews for years. I mean, I believe over a decade now, and her work is absolutely incredible. She's been taken down from YouTube, so I highly recommend, going on here and checking out her work in all of her interviews. Um, so, I think this was a very interesting show. I guess it was cut a little short here, unfortunately, but I think we covered a lot and it was really interesting. So hopefully I can have Kerry back on again sometime. And, I think it's kind of interesting actually when we were getting into these things about AI and these different topics, it almost seemed like some sort of robotic voice was kind of taking over. So that was really weird. I'm not sure what's going on here. Also, before I went live, my phone just glitched out and stopped working. So apparently, someone or something really does not want us to do this show, unfortunately, tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. And before I go, actually, please make sure to check out my art over here at shamanspears.com. I make uniquely handcrafted energy channeling devices for the purpose of amplifying energy. They're all filled with copper coils, crystals, organite, and sand I collect from sacred places around the world down the insides. And they're painted with crop circles that have been found around the world. They're filled with naturally magnetic hematite sand, which is very interesting because we actually have hematite in our brains. And I really liked where Kerry was going with the end of this interview. I was interested to see where she would go with the more positive aspect of all of this when it comes to us remaining human and not merging with machines or basically changing our DNA or accepting these programs and seeing what human powers can actually develop from us, what spiritual powers we can develop if we do not go with these different programs and agendas that are taking place on the planet right now. Who knows? Something I wanted to ask her was, how would we be able to defeat an AI takeover if that were to happen? I mean, how would that be possible for us to do if we didn't have, augmented, brains, augmented minds, or, augmented uh, physical bodies? But, it could be very interesting to see how we can go. Evolution obviously does not happen without stress. And, that's the way evolution works is stress is what causes evolution. So if we were put in a situation where we did have to attempt to defeat AI technology, then maybe it would cause us to kind of go through an evolutionary process ourselves where we may develop these supernatural powers that may come out, or these powers that we already had that are obviously have been locked into our DNA, the dormant DNA strands or the rebel gene, as Kerry Cassidy wrote her book about. And yeah, so this is all very interesting. And I think I'm going to go ahead and close out tonight's show. Thanks everyone so much for joining me. Hopefully we can do a part 2 again sometime soon. And oh, it looks like Kerry may be coming back in the studio, so I will hold on a couple seconds here. But yeah, okay. You know what? I think I'll just go ahead and close out. So thanks so much, everyone. And until next time on Apollo's Odyssey, over and out.